This video will help students in completing the COMM 110 persuasive speech. Hopefully you remember watching this previous video with some helpful points for your informative speech. If not, go watch that now. This video will build on the informative speech video. The requirements for your persuasive speech include that you need to use 5 sources, and at least 2 must be scholarly, peer-reviewed journal articles. In this speech, you must try to persuade others to agree with your point of view and incorporate at least one counterargument. This video will review popular and scholarly information and demonstrate how to find good evidence that supports your argument, using some previous students' example topics. In the previous video, we talked about how important it is to understand what types of information you will find in popular sources, like you can easily find via searching on the visible web, and what you will find in scholarly sources, like peer-reviewed articles. Popular sources, like news, magazines, and web pages, are good for quick facts, historical dates, very current events, and generally quick overviews of a topic. Scholarly sources are good for answering specific researchable questions, which often follow patterns like how does X affect Y? Why does X happen? So in finding sources to help support a good persuasive argument, you need to think about what external, concrete, measurable evidence beyond your own opinions would help to persuade someone. That's what you're looking for in your sources. Then, just like we did last time, state what you are searching for as a research question, identify the most important keywords in that question, and create your search from that. Keep in mind that the most effective persuasive speeches come from the most solid evidence, and you can certainly have some ideas in mind right now about what the answers to your questions are, but keep an open mind because you might come across some other evidence in your research that actually shifts your perspective in some way, and that's a good thing. The evidence that you find in the research should inform and develop your argument. You shouldn't have your argument already made up at this point, and then go try to find evidence to confirm what you already think. That's not the purpose of a persuasive speech, nor of education in general. We'll be doing our searches from the Research at UW search box on the library homepage. As shown in the previous video, be sure to limit to peer-reviewed journals on your results screen if you want only scholarly, peer-reviewed articles. So let's take a student example from a previous semester. Say you want to persuade that it's important for students to create a budget and work on improving their financial health while in college as much as possible. You might phrase a research question like, what's the impact of financial health on college students? I would start with these keywords for that search: college student, financial health, and impact. I limited to peer-reviewed. And here's a really relevant article on exactly that topic. Financial health impacts every other aspect of college students' health too, not just their finances. That's pretty strong evidence to help us argue that building good financial health is important. Let's take another student's example. Say you want to persuade that using 100% electric cars is the most important step to take in reducing human impact on the environment. Maybe a logical research question for that topic is, how much greenhouse gas comes from traditional vehicles compared with 100% electric? The total yearly emissions from an average fuel-powered car on the road is a relatively simple number to find, and the EPA has easily computed it for us. EPA.gov, while it's a reliable governmental source, doesn't quite count as a scholarly journal source, although you could certainly use it for one of your other sources if you wanted. But this page doesn't give us the other half of the comparison: how much greenhouse gas is emitted by the creation and powering of 100% electric vehicles. By the way, as you are refining your research question, this is also a good time to start thinking about a possible counter-argument against your topic. Somebody might logically say, what about the environmental impact of manufacturing all those batteries for electrics? Or the environmental impact of the electricity to charge up the batteries at the charging stations over the entire life of the car? Maybe they're not such a good deal for the environment after all. Part of your speech requirement is that you must refute at least one of these reasonable counter-arguments, an argument that somebody could logically make against your points. So once again, now we're getting to a more in-depth question that could be answered by a scholarly article. Maybe we need to revise our question slightly to be, how does the environmental impact of 100% electric cars compare to other car options over their entire life cycle? Here's the search keywords I used for that: electric cars, environmental impact, comparison, life cycle. And here's at least one peer-reviewed article that compares the total life cycle impact of traditional, hybrid, and electric vehicles, including everything from the manufacturing impact to the cost to dispose of it at the end of its life. As we read this article, this is also a good example of how perhaps the research in an article might make you change your argument slightly. These charts show that the lifetime global warming impact of a battery-operated vehicle, shown by the yellow line here, actually varies quite a lot based on the sources for electricity in that country. The lifetime environmental impact of 100% electrics is comparatively much better than gas or hybrid cars in Norway. Electric is actually worse in Poland, and the US would probably be different still. So maybe you want to go back to your search results list to look for an article that talks more specifically about the US situation, or you might still use this article to address that earlier counterargument by discussing the importance of having clean, renewable energy powering the grid nationally to charge up all those electric vehicles. Either way, this is a good example of how finding the right scholarly article sources will help to make your persuasive argument stronger. In this video, we've talked about the different information found in popular and scholarly sources and discussed how to find good evidence to support your persuasive speech. If you still have questions after watching this video, please contact the library. We're happy to help.